Ever wonder why your neighbor's Christmas lights look perfect year round while yours are tangled in a box? Or why some electrical contractors charge half the price of others? The electrical industry in Canada is growing rapidly, hitting over $163 billion in 2024. But most homeowners in Red Deer in Central Alberta have no idea what separates good electrical work from great electrical work. Today, we're sitting down with Ryan from LumenTek Electrical to pull back the curtain on what homeowners really need to know about keeping their properties safe, efficient, and ready for the future. Hey, Ryan, I'm just going to jump right into the questions. All right?
Sounds good.
Perfect. All right. What's the biggest electrical misconception that homeowners in Red Deer have that actually puts them at risk?
I would say the biggest misconception is not hiring electricians. So people will call a handyman to go do something and then, or send their husband to go do it or significant other that doesn't really understand what they're doing. Yeah. And then they cause a bigger issue that we get called to fix. And that will quickly turn a quick, easy service call into like a half day or a full day of troubleshooting. And then they finally go, oh yeah, like someone changed that. Or like they fixed that light a week ago and we're like, oh, had we known that someone had touched that, we would have started there.
So biggest misconception is you can just do it yourself. Right?
Yeah, some people can, but some people can't.
Yeah, most people shouldn't.
Yeah.
So LumenTek Electrical specializes in permanent lighting systems like Celebrate. What made you decide to focus on that when most electricians stick to traditional services?
I just saw the product and thought it was really cool and I wanted it for my own house and kind of got looking into it more. And then next thing I knew, I'd signed up and I had a few customers kind of asking about it before I really researched permanent Christmas lighting. And that's what kind of got me on there. I was looking, I was like, that's pretty cool. I might see what it takes to become a dealer. And then did that. And my plan was kind of just do that, do a couple houses and have that be it. But it ended up being really busy and
nice.
Doing a ton of houses.
How did the season go this year? How many did you get to install? Quite a few?
Yeah, we did quite a few this year. Last year was our busiest year with it. This year we were pretty busy with some other projects, so we didn't do a whole lot of them, but yeah, it was still quite a few houses.
So still lots of opportunity for people to get Celebrate then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so walk me through what happens when someone calls you with an electrical problem. How do you figure out if it's a simple fix or something more complex?
It really depends on what happened. Like we'll usually ask them what they've noticed has happened before the act, like before something stopped working, around that time, if they noticed lights flickering before they stopped working, or if plugs sometimes stop working, then completely stopped working. And that usually gives us somewhere to start. So usually if they noticed it a few times and then it stopped working completely, that's usually a more simple repair. But if we sometimes get calls like, oh, we had someone doing our siding and now none of the plugs work. And we're like, great, someone probably shot a nail through a wire and now we're going to be spending hours trying to figure out which wire got hit and measuring everything to see where the problem is. If it's just one wire, if it's multiple wires, one wire, multiple spots, it really can vary from there.
So it really depends on how the problem presents itself. Is that right?
Yeah. And if something else was happening before the problem happened. So usually if they're working on the house at the same time, something stops working, it's usually a bigger problem than
gotcha.
A connection just failed after being left alone for 20 years or something.
Right. So you have to be part detective when you're going in.
Pretty much.
Okay. So let's talk about winter. Red Deer winters are brutal. What are the most common electrical issues that you see in Central Alberta that homeowners in warmer climates never have to deal with?
I would say block heater cords ripping covers off outside plugs, or GFIs not working because block heater issues. They won't reset. Yeah, lots of stuff like that. Usually people don't realize their outside plugs don't work until it gets cold out. Mm-hmm. And then, then we had to go fix them in -20. Heat trace is another one. Once the heat trace stops working, people usually don't realize it's not working until something freezes. And then it's all sorts of fun trying to figure out where the problem is when everything's covered in ice.
So right now, there's a huge push towards smart homes and energy efficiency right now. What's one upgrade that you think every homeowner should prioritize? And what's one that's just marketing hype?
I think LEDs is a pretty good place to start, especially on lights that are on all the time. Like there's people that have incandescent bulbs in the mechanical room that are on like 1 hour a year when they're changing their filters in the furnace. It's not really a big deal, but stuff where you have lights on all the time, those are worth switching out to LEDs. Another thing is like occupancy sensors. So when you walk in the room, it turns on. When you leave, it turns off. Especially if you have kids, that's like at least for us, like every time you go into a room, the door's closed and the lights are on. It's like we haven't been in that room for 2 days. Like, why are the lights still on? So that's another easy way to save electricity. But there's stuff where people put smart switches and stuff on things that really don't need it. Like their bedroom
so
lights.
what are some things? Give me some examples of places where people put smart switches where they're not necessary.
Like bedroom lights, we've been asked to put them on a lot. And it's like, well, you're not going to go to bed with your lights on. Like, you're going to know they're on. Like, you might leave and go to work with them on, but that's not.
Okay. Let's talk about pricing differences. Okay. So it seems like some electrician can give a quote for $500. Another one gives a quote for $2,000 and the customer thinks it's the same job. Why the difference?
The difference in price and the same kind of job is usually because the two electricians are quoting the same repair in different ways. For instance, if you have a breaker or a plug that keeps tripping the breaker, the one electrician might say, okay, the breaker's probably worn out. We're just going to replace the breaker. There's your $500 call. The other electrician might go, okay, well, that's tied into 10 different things. We're going to run a whole new circuit to there, put in a whole new circuit right in the panel that's completely separate from everything else in the home. But when they present their quotes, they may not be explaining that very well. So you might get a huge range in pricing. In reality, like the jobs are completely different, but the solution, as far as most people are concerned, is the same thing.
Right. So one is kind of the could be possibly just the Band-Aid solution, whereas the other one's a more thorough investigation and fix.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's hard. There's not really, for electrical, it's not one size fits all. And it's not, there's so many different ways that we're allowed to fix it within code that could be hard to explain between different electricians, especially if you're not all there at the same time. Like, you don't know what the other guy's quoting.
Right.
Like, we've had a job before where we've been told like the electrician was going to do it for what your materials cost. And it's like, well, then obviously we're not quoting the same thing.
What's the most interesting or challenging project that you've worked on recently, and what did you learn from it?
And one where the guy was saying he had sparks coming out of the panel for a couple of weeks and then none of his lights worked. He wouldn't tell us what was going on. So we're trying to figure out why none of the lights worked. And he's like, oh yeah, like the washing machine's right in front of the panel. He's like, yeah, my wife would get scared doing laundry because like sparks would always come out of the breaker and you could hear like sparking inside there. And then all the lights stopped working. I was like, but you didn't tell us that. Like we would have started looking there right away if we had known that there's an issue there. Cause like some of the lights worked and they were on a different circuit. So we go in there right away. Like, it's a burnt breaker. We're like, okay, well, there's your problem. And like, because they'd left it for so long, the whole bus had melted back into the panel. So we had to change the whole breaker, move it to a new spot in the panel. And that spot couldn't really be used anymore.
Oh man.
That was a simple one that could have just been avoided by just simply telling us what was going on beforehand.
And calling sooner.
Yeah. And he waited. It was like, I can't remember when it was. It was like right before a long weekend too. It was like an emergency. Like, he needed us there. And it was like, you could have called us when it started like months ago.
That's the thing. If you see sparks, call the Sparky.
Or if you hear sparks.
If you hear sparks, call an electrician. Anything really cool, like any cool projects or neat things you've worked on?
We did that spa resort in
Oh yeah, and dig into that. Tell us about it.
That was a prefab building. We got called out. They built it in the shop. We wired it all in the shop, and they shipped it down to site. And we drove out there, hooked everything up, tested it all, did some final function tests and whatnot. And yeah.
And what was the project exactly?
It was a spa. So they had a spa, like prefab buildings. They had 2 saunas in there, a cold plunge. Yeah, it was pretty cool. A couple bathrooms in there, mechanical room, like everything.
Neat.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So this is out in the mountains in Kananaskis. So a prefab day spa kind of thing, right?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different like hotel rooms essentially that you can stay in, or cabins, I guess.
Wow.
And all around there in the mountains. It's pretty cool.
Amazing. That sounds like lots of fun. At least you got to see something different and you're not doing the same thing day in, day out, right? Yeah. Okay, now let's talk about reputation. You've got over 100 5-star reviews. What do you think most electrical contractors get wrong when it comes to customer service?
A lot of people will try to get in, get out, and just fix the obvious problem without seeing why it became a problem in the first place. Like, a lot of people just don't care about their customers as much. Like, they just want to bill them, get paid, and leave. They don't really care about why they're, like, what they want, what you're like for like a lot of people, like for instance, pot lights are obviously pretty popular. And there's the 4-inch ones are super common and the 6-inch ones. A lot of people just go with like, oh, the 4-inch are easier to put in. They're more common. Let's just put those in instead of seeing what they use the room for, why they want the pot lights, and maybe the 6-inch option is better. But just because that's what they're used to doing, they probably stock them in the van already. They just go with that, not actually listen to what the customer wants.
Right.
We try to go a little further with it than just like the quick solution. We try to give customers a few different options on ways they can solve the problem. And then on top of that, offer different solutions for like what we're actually going to install. That's one thing. And then other things too is I hear a lot of stories from customers about previous electricians trying to nickel and dime them on every little thing they can. Like when we charge a service call, we charge $150 for the service call, and that's it. Like that's $150 plus the GST. That's all. But we've heard like other companies will be like, oh no, we're only $120. And then the customer gets the bill and they have like a $50 truck fee, and then they have a tool rental fee and all this stuff on top of it that they didn't tell the customer about, that they just get stuck with the bill that's more than they kind of told them about. And they've already had the work done, so they have to pay it. And I don't like doing that to people. I'd rather tell them, I don't care if we sound like we're a little bit more upfront, but at least they know if they hire us, like that's exactly what they're paying. We're going to do what we said we were going to do, and that's what it costs. We're not just going to surprise you with the bill at the end.
Right. That's amazing because yeah, it is kind of a shock if you're expecting one price and you get something completely different on the invoice, right?
Yeah.
That's a bit shocking.
And if customers change stuff too, we try to let them know like that's going to change the price, and we try to give them the exact price before we do that, because a lot of the time, like we know what it costs as electricians, but a homeowner, you don't know, like you don't know what they know about the trade. They might have no idea what one more pot light costs. They go, oh, the first 4 were this much money, and then one more is 10 times more. And it's like, well, that was in a finished ceiling. There's no access above it. Like the circumstances may change, but they don't necessarily understand that because it's not what they do all day. We try to explain that too. We don't just say it's this much and take it or leave it. We try to give them a bit of an explanation as to why it's more than the other ones or why it's more difficult. And
yeah, no, that's great. I think every company should be doing that. So the customer's not surprised or shocked at the end. And that's why you get so many 5-star reviews.
we try to.
Amazing. Right on. So where do you see residential electrical work heading in the next 5 to 10 years? And what should homeowners be thinking about now to future-proof their homes?
There hasn't been a ton of changes lately, but it seems like more and more people are going towards smart devices, smart breakers, smart kind of everything that, like your dishwasher connects to the internet now, whether it needs to or not. So it seems like, yeah, there's definitely more smart devices coming out. More things have more ways of connecting to the internet. A lot of the panels we've been putting in lately are the Leviton panels that you can change breakers out, put smart breakers in if you need to. So we're trying to make it so it's as easy as possible to upgrade stuff in the future if someone wants to go that route. A lot of the other stuff, like the smart switches and everything, can be added anytime, and they're pretty really straightforward.
What about upgrading your service or your panel for 200 amps or greater?
Really depends on what you need the power for. A lot of the time, the 200 amp service upgrades aren't necessary for most people. Most of the time, 100 amps is all you really need. We see a few houses that are really old and have like the 60 amp services from like the 60s and 70s. And like, that's something that like your insurance company usually won't even insure it if it's that small. And then it's also like, well, that panel's so old, you probably want to change it anyhow. Those breakers have been discontinued forever. And if you don't Google them because you won't sleep at night because they don't trip. Yeah, it's like that's something where it's worth looking into. And if, say, you have a 60 amp service, you're doing the whole panel, it might only be a couple $100 more to upgrade to 200 amps at that point, because you're just buying a stretch of cable to go to the street and then your panel. Like it's, but if you do 100 amp and then 5 years you call us and say you want to go 200 amp, then it's a big cost. We're redoing everything we just did. That's where we try to give the option at the time, because we don't know what the homeowner plans on doing with the house. Or
yeah, they might want an EV charger, or they might want a hot tub, or both.
Yeah.
Right. Put a suite in the basement.
Yeah, exactly. When people start talking about possibly doing that, then we try to at least give an option of upgrading that at the time instead of doing all the work and then getting called back later because it's not big enough.
Right. Okay. Last question. If someone's watching this and is thinking about hiring an electrician, whether it's you or someone else, what are 3 non-negotiable questions they should ask for before signing a contract?
I would definitely recommend looking online. Everyone's got a website now. Everyone should have a Google page. It's pretty easy to see if the business popped up yesterday or if they've been around for a while. Yeah, the biggest thing is check reviews, everything like that. Make sure they have liability insurance, because at the end of the day, if something happens, if they're not insured, you're out of luck. Like, if they don't have the money, then you can't do anything. Yeah, make sure they're insured. Make sure they're actually a Red Seal tradesman.
And what about having a master certificate, pulling permits and all that? Is that something that they should be looking at?
As far as doing work on your house, like, they have to be a master electrician to pull a permit. But if you just want, like, to make sure they're doing the job properly and everything, at the very minimum, make sure they have a Red Seal. If they have a master, that's awesome. Every company should have a master electrician. You have to in order to pull permits. But yeah, at the very least, make sure they have a Red Seal ticket.
All right, Ryan, thanks so much for sharing with us today. And if you guys are looking for an electrician in the Red Deer or Central Alberta area, call LumenTek Electrical. That's at lumentech.ca. And we'll catch you guys on the next video.